I'd like to just get you to give a very quick introduction and also tell me about yourself, but also the product that you work on. So I'll start with Anshul.
Right. So thank you, Rory, for welcoming us here tonight. I'm Anshul. I work with LinkedIn. The primary product I work on these days is LinkedIn events and also LinkedIn groups. Um, I have quite a few years of experience working in user experience research domain. That is a short intro about me.
Great, thank you. And over to you, Amit.
Thanks, Anshul, and hi, Rory, and hi, everybody. It's really great to be here, and thank you for giving us the opportunity. I'm Amit Patil. I am Senior Design Manager at Microsoft India, and I work on a product, a very famous product that you all know of. It's Outlook. So yeah, Outlook and related products to Outlook. Yeah, that's sort of, and I have also some few years of experience, I'd say.
Great. So that's perfect for what we're looking to talk about today. So the topic is around kind of pivoting enterprise products. A lot of the stuff that you read on the internet, it's all startup driven and it's all about a greenfields, brand new product that you have a lot of flexibility with. But what we're going to dive into today is when you're dealing in an enterprise domain, how do you handle all of that kind of insight that you're gathering and pivoting that you might need to do? So with that kind of an introduction, Anshul, can you tell me about, you mentioned you work with LinkedIn events. How does LinkedIn events fit in within the broader LinkedIn product suite?
Right. So that's a great question, Rory. So one of the things that LinkedIn is based upon, the very foundation of LinkedIn is it helps people build great relationships with each other. When we talk about events, we are talking about three kind of personas or audience, if you will. So one is an organizer like yourself. Other are speakers like me and Amit. The third are the audience, as in the attendees, like the people who are listening to this talk right now. So we aim to build relationships between these three groups of people, because when we started LinkedIn events, the idea was that when people meet face to face, this was before COVID. So when people meet face to face, they interact with each other and they connect with each other, afterwards on LinkedIn a lot of the times. And they get into a conversation. Sometimes these conversations lead to job prospects or career opportunities like mentorship and all. So when we talk, when all the COVID happened and we moved into the online space, the idea of LinkedIn events is to provide people that space to take conversations forward. And the thing we are aiming to achieve is to help people connect with each other, build professional relationships. So that's where we fit into the bigger picture of LinkedIn.
Okay, so it's kind of, it's in that same connections. It's just, it started with an offline connection building, but now shifting to online like everything is.
Exactly. Yeah.
Perfect. And Amma, can you talk a bit about how, well, Outlook is pretty well known, but how it fits into the broader, is it a product in its own right, or do you think of it as a part of a suite?
Yeah, I would say it's part of a bigger suite, and we all have used Outlook in different points of time. But I also have this within the umbrella of Outlook. There are these smaller products, and one particular product is bookings, and we bookings is particularly for booking time, just like other competitors like Calendly and so on, to book time of an individual or for a service. And Outlook as an umbrella, I would say, is having so many features that some of the features need to be specialized, and that's where something like bookings comes into picture, which focuses primarily only on booking services and times. And we moved from small medium enterprises to bigger enterprises as a whole. Yeah. And it's of course part of the M365 suite that it's sold off.
Okay, great. So this bookings product, that sounds interesting. It's one that I'm not very familiar with, and I'm not sure. Outlook, yes. Bookings, not so much.
Yeah.
Can you describe how this came about? Describe a little bit more detail what it is and why it's separate, because it sounds to me like it's just a calendar feature.
Well, that's an interesting question. So I would say bookings is a particularly if I were to describe in a quick manner, it's not just about personal time booking, but also making sure that services are booked in. So I can take an example. You're a hospital and you want your doctor's times to be booked at a particular time, but a particular doctor comes with his services, right? As in, there is a nurse around and there are other things around that play. So bookings is about booking that service, and you actually give a public facing website, a web page, and a controller. So just like Anshul mentioned, multiple partners within bookings. Also, there's the organizer with the one who actually set up the booking page, and then there is the one who books the page, and there are the services, the people who actually perform the services. So that's sort of the triangle of bookings, and it fits within. Why is it a separate product? It's a separate product because we saw the need. In fact, we have seen this in the COVID times, particularly booking for say COVID tests and so on. We are seeing more and more bookings being used. Yeah.
And and how do you make the decision internally when and now obviously I'm simplifying here, but could that not just be a feature in Outlook? You have calendar in Outlook. Why? How do you make the decision from an enterprise perspective to say this is going to be a new product we're going to call bookings versus this is a feature that we're just going to put in the calendar in Outlook?
I think the idea is when specialized cases come in, and Outlook is like used by millions of users out there, so you cannot try and push everything into that feature space as such, because in the end all the features are fighting with each other to actually be there, while certain set of users need those specialized features, and that's where a product like bookings is born, where it needs to be standing independent as against just doing it within Outlook itself. So I would say the way to look at it is, again, Microsoft has a culture of hackathons. That's where a product like bookings was born, and hacks actually help you identify whether it works in the market. But we have big responsibility when we have a product which has legacy, right? As in, you cannot just put in another new feature just out there, but by pivoting it extensive as an extra feature or an extra product by itself, we actually help test out those scenarios, pilot those scenarios outside. So I think that's the intention, that's the way. So even if you start with a hack, it's sort of a safer way to look at the market, test it out, and we are seeing its success now. Like more and more people want to use it. So that's another way of looking at it.
Great, and just something that popped into my head there. It sounds similar to Google are kind of famous for launching lots of little mini products and spinning off, but they're also quite famous for periodically shutting them down. So what are is there a benefit, and this is from an enterprise perspective, which has that kind of, it's a more established, there's a bit more trust. What's the risk of Microsoft just suddenly saying this isn't working? Let me rephrase that. What are your goals that make sure that this product is going to be successful and not shut down on people?
I would say from a user goal perspective, making sure that that specific audience is getting its own due by getting their own product separately. From a business goal perspective, yes, it's a part of a suite. So if that audience is served, the suite makes more meaning to that audience as well, other than the regular audience who's actually there. So I think the intention is to make sure that certain set of audiences also get their due. At the same time, I would say that yes, it's not just about again, it's a business in the end, and how do we increase the business opportunities through making these unique products as such. As far as shutting down is concerned, I would say it's not a concern much, because if you are getting the users, you're getting a good set of users who actually are being served, then shutting down is not really an option as such. Otherwise, if we are really looking for shutting down, then might as well integrate it in the main product. So I wouldn't comment about other companies, but I think that's not what Microsoft believes. Yeah.
Great. Thanks for that. So I'll jump over back to Anshul. You mentioned there that you went through a kind of a change. So LinkedIn events used to be for physical events, and then, as everybody knows, everything's remote nowadays. can you describe how that pivot happened? So who decided and how did you decide to make that pivot?
Right. So when so the initial idea when LinkedIn events got conceptualized was helping people to take their offline conversations forward by using the online, LinkedIn platform. So COVID happened, and it seemed that people started canceling their events, not just canceling, postpones started happening, and couple of months or 3-4 months into the situation, the events started converting to online. Not the super big conferences, but here we were talking about, sole proprietors hosting these events or small companies with not a lot of employees. That was when we had to, hasten the roadmap. It was always part of the roadmap, given that sometime we would want to move eventually to online, but this kind of, provided us that opportunity window to make that transition swiftly. Now, when we talk about moving the whole framework online and how do we do that quickly, that's I guess that's where I can speak how research helped specifically, because we saw that users' behaviors were constantly changing. So it's not that they changed over the period of COVID itself, but every 2 months we saw a shift. So things which are more important to people remained no longer important, and some new things came into picture. So we had learned that earlier, people used to attend events to network a lot. However, the networking opportunities just got diminished in the online space. Organizers did not know how to provide that space. Attendees did not know how to go about it. So we saw that focus kind of shifted to learning instead of meeting people and talking to each other. And this is an example. A lot of similar kind of behaviors surfaced. Which helped us, make tweak to our event page, what organizer creates, what attendee sees, and we were able to do that. Also, I think the whole point of my talk was around, excuse me, formative sprints, and we ran these sprints on a bi-weekly basis, which help just incrementally improve the design rather quickly. So that is how we pivoted, quickly. Research definitely contributed a lot, besides,
And
exact decisions.
and is there so enterprises can sometimes get a name for just being we've signed off something and it takes so long to sign off that you just keep going with it. So was there much pushback when you started coming back with this research saying, listen, these customer behaviors are changing, we need to change our roadmap?
So I think there is always two parts of the equation, when we talk about research, because research provides you with a lot of insights. We wouldn't, any researcher would agree that we cannot always expect all of them to go into production. However, there is always a room to prioritize and align insights based on company priorities. So we made sure that we do that. What is most important, what keeps on repeating itself in multiple studies should be a P0, and we continued pushing for it for the product roadmap. And I would say the execs are very welcoming, to such insights which are repeated and are heard across.
Great. I'm going to shift it slightly. So talking about the pivot there, but now I want to ask about. So we've established that for both of you, it's a smaller product within a larger product suite. You must be competing with. I don't know the full internals, but I know with Office 365, for example, there are a lot of small products. With LinkedIn, I'm not as sure. But how do you promote your sub product, if I can call it that, within the larger suite? So how do you go about doing that? And is there any challenges of other sub products trying to get the user's attention? I'll start with Anshul on that one.
So when you say promoting, like promoting internally, how do we promote our product?
So from an end user's perspective, so I use LinkedIn. Because I'm in the events industry, I know about LinkedIn events, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who probably are just learning about it for the first time. So how do you try to promote LinkedIn events when LinkedIn are probably trying to promote a lot of things to the users?
So that's a great question, Rory. It's just that about the promotions, I wouldn't be the best person to, to provide you full spectrum of the view here. All I can say is there are marketing teams which look specifically into, promotion. My area of expertise would lie more towards how do we get events discovered, by both organizers and attendees. And like with any tool, there are multiple entry points to events. If you go to your LinkedIn page today, so the quickest way would be on the left panel of your profile, where you see your profile picture, and there are ways it can be discovered in feed on from the search bar, etc. So we make sure that it keeps getting discovered, because one of the true north for us would be to increase conversions. It would be true for any product, more people using it. So that would be there. So that is definitely something we try to push for.
And is there a lot of competition for getting a link on that left sidebar? Were there any challenges getting that, or was it just that events is such a high priority for the company?
So it is a priority for sure, given the times that are changing, and unfortunately, COVID is not a great time. But for some companies, it has definitely resulted in improvements, and it has provided that window of opportunity. So I would say LinkedIn events definitely fit, and it is the case with a lot of online hosting platforms, like Zoom or Teams, where we saw good turnaround. Um, there is a competition, I mean, and internal alignment is sought, but these are exec decisions. I wouldn't have a ton of view towards that. I'll
Okay.
leave it to Amit to continue.
Well, on that note, I'll pass it over to Amit. So the same question about bookings. Obviously, it's one of the smaller products in the Office 365 suite. How do you try to surface that, and are you competing against other products for users' attention?
Yeah, I would say internally, yes. Again, when you're talking about a suite, you always have the challenge of, other the user actually wanting to use one set of products in one type part of your day as against the other. And I think the way to look at it is what slice of users' time are we focusing on? Because in the end, you can't assume that the user is going to use only your product all the time. So I'd rather say looking at it competitively is one way of looking at it, but the other way of looking at it is how are we switching over between products at the right time? So the user is not like asking if I should use this or this, but when the right job, if you go by the jobs to be done framework, when the right job comes into picture, then which product is supporting that job within your suite as such. And it might be that out of those 20 products that you offer in the suite, none of them offer anything as such. So I would say the way we approach it is look at the jobs which are satisfied by this product and which are not satisfied with the other products as such. And of course, there is internal, sort of I would say like you asked Anshul, like on the left rail, who would go there? But these are business decisions. These are also decisions on the basis of usage, right? In the end, I cannot remove Outlook from the top 10 and then give you bookings instead. I cannot remove Word, Excel, PowerPoint and give you bookings instead, because that would really underserve that particular product and try to overserve this one. So it's more about knowing where do you fit in within the suite, and knowing where do you fit in within the user's life as such. I think that's most important. If you're just trying to having the elbow room or trying to push each other like, hey, I need to sit in here, or I need to sit in there, that is not really healthy competition. The healthy competition is where do you fit in, and if you don't fit in, or if you fit in well, then who are your colleagues around their product suite? Like for bookings, Outlook is a big colleague, right? As in people will set up something on bookings, but get their emails once, say, for example, you set up a bookings page for events, and then when some customer actually clicks on a particular event, I will get my email as a confirmation, and hence I will be on Outlook. I will not go on bookings for that. But But for setting up and making those changes, I'll still go to bookings. So that's where you need to be. There's a scientific word, symbiotic relationship, right? So you need to be in a symbiotic relationship rather than being in I am standing out a unique. And again, the same goes with external as well, right? As in one way of looking at competition is like, hey, I'm competing with all the other products in the world. The other is where do we fit in with the other products in the world, right? As in some people use, say, Gmail in their personal space, but at the same time use in the office space, use Outlook. So where do we fit in? That's where we need to figure out.
Great. I really like that. I'm a big fan of jobs to be done. So I like looking at the kind of the user problems and jobs that they're trying to achieve. But that brings me to a question about B2B software, because there is, and you brought this up in your talk, the difference between the customer and the user in B2B products often. So, and very quickly, the customer tends to be the person who pays for it. The user is the person who uses it. If the customer is paying for it, do you need to focus more on solving their needs? Why would you bother focusing on what the user needs are? I'll start with Amit on that one.
This is an interesting debate, and I'm sure most people in their own companies have this debate. And from the business side, they want to talk to the customers. From the user research side, people like Anshul will say that user comes first, and so on. So I would say it's both. Both needs are important because I see organizations, and in my talk also I mentioned the org needs are also important and user needs are also important. Of course, the misunderstanding that user is equal to customer is the problem. We should not just think that both are the same, and that's where we need to draw the difference. And I would rather say it's a scale. It's a scale across different personas who actually affect your user experience, because organizations also have their needs which need to be satisfied, and the customers will be telling you about the org needs, while the users also have their needs of using their day-to-day software, and we need to understand those as well. If you're just focusing as an enterprise product, if you're just focusing only on user needs or only on customer needs, you're going to fall short of a lot of things. In the end, that's the IT admin. If you look at it, just the organizational needs, IT admins enable a lot of features. So there's a lot of power empowered. IT admins are empowered to actually enable those features. Now, if you're not understanding why or when they are empowering, they are sort of enabling those features, we are not really helping the organization and not even helping the user, because the user will not even get that product to be used as such, right? So how do we then inform the customer or the org side of things in a manner where they see the value prop and hence then enable it for the users and so on. On the other side, even if you enable the products, as in there's this problem of enterprise products of wanting to push the product, as in we just bought it and now you have to use it, right? As in the challenge there I'm seeing is then the user is at the mercy of the companies, whatever they bought it within their budget. But that's where the user need comes into picture. Like, is your product really understanding the user needs? Because I think they are not empowered to choose, but they are empowered to react back or increase the usage or not increase the usage and so on. So I think both are important. We just need to balance the two. I just see it as a spectrum rather than seeing it as a isolated user and customer as such.
And that's the challenge of product management, trying to get that balance correct.
That's so true.
I'll ask the same question to you, Anshul, because I'm a little confused with LinkedIn events. Do you have that separation, I guess, between the customer who's paying and the user who's using?
That's a great question, and something I continue checking with my team as well. So when it comes to one party paying and another not paying, we do not have that, as in LinkedIn events is free for now. When we talk about segregation of customers in terms of people taking this and someone else using it, so that could be there in case of enterprises who use LinkedIn events to go live. However, when it comes to prioritizing, who do we focus on, customers or users? I think at this point of time, we really want to provide both of these parties a safe space to 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 build those relationships with each other. And why LinkedIn is the best suited tool for that is because when you host professional events, you want your professional network to see them, so relevant people can join. People who are in the same industry, like-minded people who are looking to learn from the content you have to share. It goes both ways. For the attendee as well, they may want to know the events that are being hosted by say brand names or people they really look up to in their industry. So that is there. We focus on providing best experiences to both the organizer as well as attendee. We want the process to be simplified, and there is just so much which goes into creating an event. You would know, you are an event organizer, so this is just one part of it, which is during the event. We are live right now, but there is a lot which has gone into logistics before this event. You probably compiled a list of who to attend to. You probably reached out to a ton of speakers and a few, and we were a few shortlisted ones. Some things will also happen after this event gets over. So there would be some communication from your end. Some people, some of the attendees would want to connect with Amit, with me, with other speakers of this event. They may want to connect with each other as well. And all of this towards advancing career opportunities, knowing more about the domain they are in or they are interested in. So like I said, there is a lot that is happening here. And when this COVID started, no single platform had cracked all of this seamlessly. It was still a challenging process to create an event, to discover events which you would want to attend professionally, the topic you are interested in. So right now our focus is to provide that seamless experience, by integrating various tools that we have, the native solutions that we have. And we are not earning any money.
But you did say it's free for now. So is that a strategy in the future, or is that something that's just up in the air?
Yeah, I wouldn't know, but I know the state of the things right now. It is. I mean, you can go live on LinkedIn and go for the next event.
Great. I'll have a look at it. So just bringing it back to the kind of the pivoting bit of the conversation, is it easier to build and pivot a product in an enterprise setting, or do you think it's easier in a startup where I guess there's less bureaucracy and overhead? So Anshul, do you want to take that?
Right. So I think both have their pros and cons. When we talk about startups, I think one thing they can afford to do is disrupt, as in they believe in making quickly and failing and learning from their failures. And so a lot of startups in the online events space are becoming very popular these days. A lot of audio kind of platforms as well. However, when we talk about an established organization like Microsoft or LinkedIn, we have a set of values which we stick to. So when we talk about Microsoft, of LinkedIn is a part of, the first thing is of course trust. So we cannot take chances on that trust piece. We cannot disrupt. We have to stand true to whatever members want from us and they look up to. So we are very deliberate in the features that we ship, because we do not want anything to sound like a spam, or when people who go on live, we have to make sure that the right content is being projected into the market. Like, what are they going live about? Sort of a little example, but our foundations are very strong, and we all live by that. When it comes to easier to ship, I would say the things which are in priority, which are super important for users, which are prominent user needs, they would always find a room to be shipped. But the way we operate versus startups operate is going to be different.
And is there a challenge in that? Like, so the trust is huge because an enterprise has already built that trust. But is that a little bit of a kind of handcuffs on moving fast because you can't experiment as much as you might like to? Or do you think that it's a good thing because you just have that trust already?
So there is always a, a mindset to seize the opportunity, and there is a push to move fast. However, given the big organizations are, and given the collaboration that happens between multiple teams, so
Yeah,
when we even talk about some feature change on LinkedIn. Feed a team probably would need to have a look at it, and there are these multiple teams in any organization. Moving fast is always a challenge. We try to find that little balance, and the focus is always on fitting user expectations, what can we launch.
great. That sounds really good. And Amit, do you have anything to add on that? No.
No, I think Anshul covered all my points. So, but I would just say, I would just say that in a way, that is correct, right? As in the end, there are the values, and there are so many users out there who are making a product as part of their lives day in day out, and it's not just using it as like a side item, but like, for example, in Anshul's case, it's a live event going, or in Microsoft Outlook's case, you are doing your day-to-day business on the same time. So any kind of experiment has to be well thought through, because a service like that going down could mean jobs being lost, right? As much as in today's world, jobs being lost, or even like somebody could die because of it. So it's a very critical space in that sense, that we have a lot of responsibility on our shoulders, and that's why the decisions are made in that fashion, where we can always push thousands of features out there, and people will be happy to use them for 15 days. But what we really value is not just going for growth. We value the retention of the existing users. We value the people who have already trusted us. And how do we then make sure that that continues? But that doesn't mean not innovate, right? As in, COVID has taught us we need to innovate. We need to jump quickly. And I think software companies, the ones were the ones who actually could adapt quickly. And I think a hackathon is a practice within Microsoft where people tend to hack and suggest you new features and come up, and that's like a culture in itself, which actually enables the engineers, designers, all the product team, as in PMs, all the makers wanting to actually showcase those unique opportunities which perhaps got missed out. So that's where it starts. And I would say it's not that innovation doesn't happen, it's just that we have to be little conscious of the existing audience, and we cannot ignore them, is what I would say.
Great. So touching on that, and because both of you have actually managed to pivot products or kind of shift things around in an enterprise setting, do you have any tips for how you would champion a user's voice? So you found some insights from some research, and now you want to go and champion that into the wider organization to try and get them to pivot or change a product to enable solving that customer problem. So Amit, do you have any tips that you could share with people?
I would say, I think in US there's the word called lobbying, right? I think that's very important, where you actually need to get your whole triad. I mean, we have a strong triad culture in Microsoft, and by triad I mean the PM, the design and research, and the dev. Because in the end, when you all get together, that's when a product is formed. You cannot say design is at the top, you cannot say PM is at the top, you cannot say dev is at the top. In the end, it's the cohesive nature, the collaborative nature via which we produce products. So what's worked for me so far, and what I've seen in bigger organizations, is actually buying in from these stakeholders or members of the triad. So you have a new idea, first of all, speak about your idea. I would say, don't keep your idea for yourself. Gone are the days when you are like, hey, this is my idea and I'm going to like hatch the egg by sitting on it. That's not how it works. You actually need to sit with your triad, open up with the idea, add more to the idea, and buy in. And when you actually have all three of you present together, the strength of that idea from a PM side, from a dev side, from a design side, it would be so powerful. That's almost like a mini business case that you're presenting to anybody, be it leadership or be it within your team and so on. And I think that's where the chances of it sustaining is much higher. So I would say lobbying or buying in, talking to the people, to the right people, creating that subgroup, and making the group as much diverse as possible. That's very important. That's my tip. Anshul, what
Great.
do you think?
No, that's pretty good. Anshul, yep. Do you have anything
Right.
to add on
So,
that?
a lot on the lines of what Amit mentioned, and I'm not talking in particular about one particular idea that you have to push through, but in general, talking about all the research insights that there are and how do we make sure that they get implemented. I think instead of lobbying, I would use the word socializing. We try to socialize it as much as possible with the with our stakeholders, with whoever we work with, and a lot of the times these insights could be triangulated, by multiple user stories that are coming in, by the voice of the member, and there are multiple channels to gather these inputs. So we kind of keep building upon that. We try to find areas where we can continue pushing them. So there could be newsletters, there could be weekly meetings, there could be quarterly sort of stuff that is happening. And those provide very nice opportunities for these insights to be heard by a lot of ears. So that certainly helps, when you keep repeating. It's like a parrot saying the same thing again and again, and we have to do this. This is something which keeps coming again and again, and verified by multiple sources. Those things definitely get in.
There's a great quote: "When you're tired of saying it, it's when people are finally starting to hear it."
That is true. Yeah.
Great. Well, I think that brings us to the end. I've been keeping an eye on the ask questions. Nobody has sent in any questions yet, but maybe they were too enthralled in the conversation. But please do send in any questions that you have, and Amit and Anshul will be around and they can answer those questions on Slack. So please do send them in if you have them. But for now, I'd like to thank Anshul and Amit for both giving their talks last night and sharing their insights today. And I hope you enjoyed it out there. So thank you very much.